I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And our guest on this program is the Honourable Colton LeBlanc. Now, he was first elected to the Nova Scotia House of Assembly as the MLA for Argyle-Barrington in a by-election in 2019, then re-elected as the MLA for Argyle in 2021. He's currently serving in the Houston government as the Minister of the Public Service Commission, Service Nova Scotia, and the Minister of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie. Originally from Quinnen, he received his primary care paramedic training at Medivie Health Ed and furthered his studies and obtained his advanced care paramedic certification at Holland College. And he's also worked as a substitute teacher and is very active in the community as well. Colton LeBlanc, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how are you doing, Gary and Quinn?
It's good to hear from you again, and like I said, we appreciate your time. We know how busy you are, particularly as a cabinet minister. Colton, you've always had this passion for helping people. You know, as we mentioned, a paramedic, an MLA, substitute teacher. Who were your main influences in your life, particularly in the younger years?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it goes back to my decision to get into politics and into public office is always that strong desire to help my community and help my friends and my family. But my upbringing by my grandparents, my affectionately known to me, Mayor and Père, certainly played a very important role in my life. Fortunate to have still my grandmother Dawn on my life, and of course the support and the love of my mom to do the best that she could as a single parent. But it's the values that they've instilled in me of giving it your 110%. It's that altruistic demeanor is something I continue to carry with me. But it's from a younger age. I got involved in my local community in Quinnen, and actively, starting with the community club, with the Labor Day picnic and things like that, and as well, with the fire department. But those types of traits or skills, led me to pursue a career in paramedicine, where you do your best to help folks in what could be their the worst day of their life, and that's some of the things I learned from that profession. I've carried on and carried with me in my new role as MLA for Argyle, and the leadership skills that you develop and communication skills and all that stuff certainly has helped me along the way in my capacity as an elected official.
Tell us a bit more about your substitute teaching. What took you down that avenue?
So some folks may not realize I did pursue a Bachelor of Science before becoming a paramedic, and in fact my intentions were to become a science teacher, high school science teacher, but after completing my general science degree at St. Anne's, it wasn't 110% in me, so I decided to pursue a change in careers and went with a paramedic profession, which I truly love and I at times I miss. So I guess there was a need, a demand for substitutes teachers at the time, and I put my name in, and I had a few opportunities at the elementary level as well as the high school level to fill in the gaps on a couple occasions there.
So, Minister LeBlanc, as a paramedic or a former paramedic, certainly the current situation where we see ourselves now, where there's huge delays in being able to turn ambulances around at hospitals and even shortage of staff and resources. How much control does the government have over that situation? I realize it's a private operator, but there's certainly a movement afoot now to try to challenge that and say, look, the government really should take control of this again. Is that a feasible option?
I think what's really important to understand, and I even said this in my time as opposition, is that healthcare and the delivery of healthcare is like the chain of a bicycle, and when we have weak or broken links, and let's be honest, there are many weak links and broken links within our healthcare system, and that's something that as a government we're committed to fixing. When those weak links continue to persist, that healthcare chain doesn't move as freely as it should anymore. So what we're experiencing within the EHS system, it has a direct correlation to access to primary care, to long-term care waits, to the surgical waits that we experience in our province, and so on and so forth. So it's as a government to address as quickly as we can the many pressures within the system, and I know that Minister Thompson, she comes from a healthcare background as well, has an understanding of the issues that continue to persist as we navigate through our first few months here in our mandate. So her and her team are working as hard as they can. But I think as a government, we've went a step further. And when you look at healthcare in our province, it's a significant portion of our provincial budget, of a $12 billion budget. It's creeping up on half of our provincial expenses. So to have one minister responsible for the delivery of healthcare and being ultimately accountable around the cabinet table is a significant responsibility. So our government, the Premier, has divvied up the task. So we actually, in fact, have a minister responsible for addictions and mental health, recognizing the challenges that we experience within our society and within access to addiction and mental health services here in the Tri-Counties and as well across our province. And then finally, we also have our Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care, because that is a big part of our healthcare system, and those who provide care to our loved ones in long-term care do a tremendous job, and there are tremendous pressures right now within that system and human resource demands within that sector of healthcare, among others. So we're taking action. It's at a leadership role as well, and having ministers that are responsible and to effectively lead to change within the systems that matter the most to Nova Scotians.
Are we spreading ourselves too thin? There's only so much money to go around. There's only so much resources to work with. Should we focus on one or two things, or are we taking on too many different tasks at the same time?
No, I go back to the analogy of that healthcare chain. We can put all our eggs in one basket and say, we're going to have zero people in Nova Scotia, zero Nova Scotians waiting for a family practitioner. But we got to recognize that doesn't solve the other issues when it comes to surgical wait times or the EHS pressures or the list for the wait list for long-term care. I think it's wise and it's the government's approach to look at multiple aspects of healthcare, recognizing that there is a significant investment required, and the Premier's been very clear that the investment is going to be made and will cost money, but we're picking up the bill that's been left on the table and putting into action the plans that we've developed while in opposition. Again, within the long-term care sector, we had established a plan. So, building more beds, focusing on recruitment and retention. Our plan on mental health and addictions, and then our plan for within primary care, and expanding the virtual care program, for example.
How much help can the federal government be overall, or is it just a matter of, hey, we'll do the transfer payments, you guys manage it?
The Premier's been very clear that anybody that wants to help our province will be there, ready to listen and talk to them. There's no doubt that when it comes to the economic health of our province, that we will be having conversations with our federal counterparts to see how they can best support us as a province. And part of, again, one of our plans that we had established while in opposition was relying on the financial support of the federal government in tackling this construction of long-term care beds. So those conversations the respective ministers and the Premier will be having as required. I'm sure. So we have to work at collaboratively towards these solutions that we want to implement.
As Quinn mentioned, you've had experience, boots on the ground as a paramedic, Colton. I'm wondering if your perception or your perspective has changed any since you were, first elected in 2019. You get a sort of an inside view of what was happening.
Certainly, my time on like you said, boots on the ground, working the system, has helped me understand and to be an effective voice around our caucus table and now our cabinet table, to understand the pressures within healthcare and understand some of the issues. So when we talk offload delay, for example, to understand what that means for the healthcare system. And what that can mean for Nova Scotians. So similarly with my other colleagues who have healthcare backgrounds, whether it be Minister Thompson or Minister Adams or Minister Comer, who all have similar experiences but just different fields of healthcare. They have benefits and knowledge that are invaluable to help us understand the challenges in healthcare.
Now, Minister LeBlanc, if you think paramedics and then you think politics, to me that's a 180. They're at opposite ends of the spectrum. So what drove you to get into politics?
It goes back to my keen interest in helping people. So through my community involvement, like I said, and being engaged and whether it was a food drive or through the volunteer fire department or the annual Labor Day picnic in Quinnen. Those are all important parts of my upbringing and memories that I cherish. And so it was, for me, one way or another, having a career path that enabled me to continue to do that. So through paramedic, obviously, it's most times you get the opportunity to try to help somebody and apply that clinical knowledge and critical thinking into place. But some of those, so critical thinking, for example, effective communication and different skills that you learn to hone and improve as a clinician, a paramedic. Those are things that I've carried on in my role as a politician. So although it can be a little bit of a 180, I do have the opportunity to help in change people's lives. So as a province, as a member of the government, we're trying to improve and better the lives of Nova Scotians from one end of the province to another. But then, within my constituency work as an MLA, helping constituents who are having tough times, and there's no lying that there's folks in our communities that have significant challenges, and my role and the role of my office is help them navigate some of the issues that they're experiencing. And unfortunately, we get some positive results at times, and sometimes we try to mitigate and help find a solution that might not be ideal, but it works best for them at the moment.
Was the political realm a bit of a shock? Like when you got in there, got into the House, went through your first couple of question periods, because question periods sort of seems like a triage situation anyways, and a bit chaotic. So did that kind of set you back?
Yeah, no, I still remember. I mean, obviously I entered politics in opposition, so a different perspective then than being in government, so now providing the responses during question period. But I remember it was my first day in the House, a few weeks after being elected in that by-election, and actually having the chance to ask my first question. It was regarding paramedics, of course, and the EHS system, of course, a topic that's was and continues to be very near and dear to my heart. So it's a steep learning curve getting in there, and there's no House of Assembly 101 guidebook. It's you rely on your colleagues, and I'm very honored and blessed to have a strong and capable caucus and be a member of that cabinet. And I've truly developed some strong relationships with my caucus colleagues, who I consider not just friends but families. So we're part of a team, a strong team, and fortunately, so over the last 2 years, we committed to Nova Scotians. We did the hard work, and like I alluded to those couple plans that we had put place in opposition, but we really did our homework then, and it demonstrates Nova Scotians our strong desire, our vision for a better Nova Scotia. And we worked hard, and together we came successful across the finish line. And we didn't waste any time to getting to work, and that work is ongoing, recognizing that there's significant pressure, and we feel the pressure. I feel the pressure. The Premier feels the pressure of addressing the issues in our province, and of course, healthcare is number one issue. Recognizing that housing is a challenge in our province, we've made headway on that file, recognizing there's still much more work to do. But no, we had a very successful first legislative session, and the work continues as we lead up to the spring session of the legislature.
Just a thought just occurred, Colton. Over the years, I talked to many politicians, and a lot of them told me that they would rather be first elected to an opposition government because it was a really good training ground to hone their skills in the House. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess I really didn't have any choice because in a by-election, I knew what I was getting into. If I was elected, it wasn't going to change the seat count much in the legislature. But I really value my time in opposition and the connections that I the opportunity to make within government and within the community. And but it has certainly played. It certainly has helped me in those 2 years to gain that experience, and now as a government MLA to continue my work as an MLA, just with a different perspective and a few different responsibilities now.
I want to go back to your formative years, if I can use that expression, and ask you how important were and are your Acadian roots.
I think I carry that the highest thing, one of the highest things in my life. I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity to take go through the public school system in French. Something that is important to the Acadian Francophone communities. And then I made that personal decision, obviously, to pursue my post-secondary studies in French at St. Anne's, and develop some really close connections there, and friends from many parts of the world. But it's that it's certainly played a significant role in my upbringing. The importance of the culture. We have a unique culture, but I also have some significant challenges living as a minority. Linguistic challenges. The pressures exerted by assimilation. But I also look at the existing challenges within the Acadian and Francophone community of our province, not unique to one part of the Nova Scotia to another, but also see the lead up to the World Acadian Congress, which will be in Argyle and Clare in 2024, coming very, very quickly. I see that as an opportunity to revitalize and refresh the pride of being Acadian, the importance of preserving our Acadian history and culture and our language. So I'm really excited and looking forward to welcoming what will be thousands of visitors from around the world to our communities in 2024. There's lots of work being done by the organizing committee and my office of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie supporting those efforts. So we have lots of opportunities in the lead up and during those 2 weeks while the festivities of the Acadian Congress are ongoing.
Take us behind the scenes, if you would. And you must have been thrilled when you were appointed Minister of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie, eh?
Oh, of course. To get the call from the premier and to be asked to be part of the cabinet, it's a huge honor. It's a recognition from him that I'm forever grateful. But to be given the opportunity to also represent and to be the voice of the Acadian Francophone community in our province is something I cherish very near and dear to my heart. And it's to establish and maintain those relationships with our Arcadian friends and family right across the province. And I was hoping to get out and about on the road to visit various communities in our province, but unfortunately the COVID pandemic situation has stalled that. But that's still on the radar for me to do as soon as possible to engage with them and to hear firsthand of the challenges and issues within their community, and because again they may be different than those experienced here in Argyle, for example, but and engage with them and collaborate with those communities, listen to their potential solutions, but to bring back those concerns to government. But really honored to have a strong and dedicated team at the Office of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie who are there and do great work and help me within my mandate.
So, Minister LeBlanc, give us a little behind the scenes on this sort of scenario. So, Premier Houston's set to put his cabinet together. Do you make a pitch as an individual that you'd like to participate in a particular portfolio, or do you just sort of sit back and wait for the call?
There's an opportunity to express your interest along the way, but ultimately it's the premier's decision and that of his transition team of our government to make those decisions. I believe if ultimately I would have said, explain my strong desire not to be in cabinet, that would have been taken into consideration. But of course, I had an interest in being Minister of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie, and again, I'm really honored to have had that opportunity.
With that in mind, can you give us a sense of the other portfolios and the other responsibilities that you have when it comes to the government?
Yeah, so I'm also Minister of the Public Service Commission, which is in sort like an HR of human resources of government, so the policies and protocols in place to support the various departments of government and to assist with employee relations and things like that. And the team there does tremendous work, and it's one thing I've noticed with entering since becoming minister is the work of our civil service that do amazing work for Nova Scotians. And I'm also a Minister of Service Nova Scotia and Internal Services, which is a pretty big department, very broad. So everything from our access centers, so your registry of motor vehicles that you get your driver's license and things like that, to land registry, to vital statistics, residential tenancies, procurement, alcohol, gaming, tobacco, and fuel. I could go on and on and on. It's a fairly big department with vast services that I don't want to miss, but I miss tons of them, listing up a couple there.
So how is an MLA informed by the Premier that he's a cabinet minister? And did you have any inkling beforehand, prior to that sit down with the Premier? What's that like?
Yeah, so for us, this, I'm sure every administration handles it differently, but for us, the Premier called the caucus members and advised them of his intention, or his desire rather, to have them part of his cabinet. And that was that phone call for our government occurred the night before the swearing in for the cabinet. So it was relatively short notice, with no inkling one way or another. So it again, very short notice, but very little time to get too excited, I guess.
So, Minister LeBlanc, we realize that, of course, COVID's dominated the government's position for like the last 2 years, but certainly there's other things that have been going on. So, can you give us a feel of some of the other accomplishments of the Houston government to this point?
Yeah, I mean, we entered our mandate, with a commitment to fixing healthcare, and so we've announced late last year, plan to development of long-term care homes, $57 million investment to provide more beds for seniors and more staff to care for them. These are important initiatives. Housing has become come to the forefront of society in Nova Scotia. So it's we introduced our housing plan and plan for homelessness. What we've seen in the last couple weeks here is an update from the Affordable Housing Commission, which has indicated progress, favorable progress in several key areas. Whether it come to legislative changes to improving renter protections, and opportunities to empower municipalities to support affordable housing. The expansion of virtual care, I think, is significant for Nova Scotians, as there's a number of folks who wait for access to primary care. So that's important. Last thing we want to do, if you have a minor ailment, is to go to the emerge. And so if we can direct folks to alternate means or access points of healthcare, that will in fact decrease pressures where they're already exerted, probably too high. The Premier was very clear of recruiting when it comes to nurses, so has made a call to nurses and pretty much has had a job guarantee for nurses graduating. We're focusing. It's a strong commitment for the Premier of doubling our population here to 2060. So focusing different efforts there. Immigration pathways are going to be important there. But overall is looking at opportunities to ensure the sustainable prosperity of the economy, fixing healthcare while focusing on developing plans to focusing on our environment to fight climate change, while supporting our traditional industries. So in the last in the first few months of our government, we've gotten to work, and we have a few more areas to continue that good work.
So, when it comes to housing, do you see that as much a government mandate issue than it is from a private sector point of view?
I think there's many partners that can play a role here, whether it be the province, whether it be municipalities, private sector, but there are significant pressures when it comes to availability of the housing market. You look at the price of housing, the real estate market has shot up significantly.
Yeah, it's outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think it's to come together at the table and work towards improving availability of supply, which will then improve affordability of the supply in the long run. And that's something that Minister Lohr, through his Department of Housing and Municipal Affairs and Housing, is working hard on.
I mean, it's all interconnected, right? Because, I mean, if you want to attract doctors, they got to have a place to live. If you want to do immigration, certainly they need a place to live. I mean, it all kind of circles back onto housing availability. But of course, if we're talking about doubling the population in the province until in 2060, how much does the government play into that versus looking towards the private sector to help solve the issues?
I think we're relying lending ourselves to the affordable housing folks, and they've done some pretty good work and put forward those recommendations that we will continue to address. But I mean, I think when you look at there's folks living in poverty, folks that are homeless. That's unfortunate. That's unacceptable, and recognizing that we have to do better as a province when it comes to supporting those that find themselves on the streets. But to your point, it is connected. It's housing is connected to healthcare. Housing is connected to whether it be physical or mental health. So it's relying on the government to be engaged, various levels of government to be engaged, and of course private and public sector.
Certainly, COVID has put us into a position where we're relying a lot more on the mental health resources. Is there something on the slate where we can increase a bit of those resources?
Yeah, it has certainly grown exponentially. The concerns and the challenges regarding addictions and mental health during the COVID pandemic. Minister Comer, his background, in fact, is a mental health nurse, and so he has that wealth of knowledge that he's bringing to his department. But government is committed to improving access. These are challenges that I hear at a local level in my constituency and surrounding constituencies. But when it comes to the implementation of a 3-digit mental health line, and ensuring that people get the right care at the right place at the right time. You shouldn't be waiting hours on end when you're experiencing a mental health crisis. So I recognize that there's room for improvement, and that's something that I carry to our minister, and I know that he's taking very seriously.
Some exciting news that Nova Scotia received. Nova Scotia has been selected to host the 7th Congrès Madre Acadian, World Acadian Congress 2024. You've got to be really excited about that as, Minister of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie, and as the MLA for Argyle, an Acadian constituency. I assume there's going to be lots of events throughout the region.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Gary. We're going to be expecting, I understand, about 30,000 folks in a matter, over a 2-week period. So it's very exciting for Argyle, for Clare, and the surrounding communities. So I know that the organizing committee is already hard at work, recognizing that in 2 years' time, this event will be on our doorstep. So it's going to be an opportunity to showcase our regions, it's as a truly amazing destination. Demonstrate that the folks here in southwestern Nova Scotia are probably the most hospitable people. But the lead up to this event is significant. The 2-week period is going to be as important, but even as much for me as I see it at this time is the legacy of that event, and hopefully the pride that will be revitalized, and the significance and the importance of our Acadian community and culture and Francophone language that we have here, and something to be very proud of. So very much so looking forward to that event.
Colton ferry service between Nova Scotia and Bar Harbour, of course, is set to resume this year, barring any further unforeseen circumstances. I mean, Premier Houston has been very clear and highly critical of the previous Liberal government's handling of the contract specifically. Has the PC government's position softened or changed any?
No, I'm really looking forward to this season. We have a contract till 2026, so I expect that both parties, the government and Bay Ferries, will live up to the contract. We haven't had the ferry sale since for a few years here. This was 2018, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that connection between our province and to the New England states be reestablished. because it is important for many in our region and for across our province. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Hopefully, be able to have the opportunity to take a little vacation for a couple of days and take the ferry.
We all saw the negative impact of the cancellation of the ferry contract by the Dexter government, and so certainly we've felt a bit of the impact of not having the service run in the last 3 years. So when 2026 rolls around, I mean, I realize I'm asking you to pull out a crystal ball, and there's an election probably in between that, but is there an anticipation of how things are going to go when the contract ends?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, that would be discussions within the Department of Public Works to be had with the operator to see what the next steps of a future contract would look like. So that's really something. I mean, I wish I had a crystal ball to answer that, but I mean, we're a few years away from that. But I'm really just looking forward to seeing the reestablishment of this link this year.
Has Premier Houston had some conversations with them so far?
I know he did call for a meeting. It was a month or two ago, but I don't know if that meeting occurred. But just to look at how they, I believe the intention was to see how the Bay Ferries wanted to see that this ferry be successful this year. Certainly, we're living in a different time than the last time it sailed. So how, if anything, their plans have changed to adapt to a society that has gone through a pandemic and continues to go through a pandemic.
What are your constituents telling you? What are you hearing back from them about the ferry service? Any concerns either way?
It's some are very looking forward to seeing this reestablishment that's been missing in our communities or in our community for the last few years here. So, and then the others, it's we have business owners that have gone through very challenging times over the last 2+ years going through a pandemic. So they see this as an opportunity that hopefully we'll see those visitors arriving to our shores, hopefully in droves, if the pandemic situation allows it, but as an opportunity to turn a new page with economic recovery for our province, as this tourism link being part of that solution.
So give us a sense, again, I'm asking you to crystal ball it, but I guess give us a sense of what's on the slate for 2022. What can we expect to see out of the Houston government for 2022? COVID aside, ferry aside, what else is on the slate?
Yeah, so we will be presenting this spring our government's very first budget, which will include various aspects that will of our election campaign. So we'll be going to the legislature later this spring to introduce that to debate and just deliberate the budget. And there's a number of initiatives that we want to get to work. Of course, healthcare is our number one priority, and understanding and getting to work on those challenges that continue to be present. One thing that we did announce earlier on was additional funding for road work in our province. That's something that's very important to Nova Scotians, and I hear frequently about it in my constituency. But I'm looking forward to see there's a couple important gravel roads that are going to be tackled. So that's some of the local things that are being done in over the next year here.
And what about school replacements? They're always a hot button topic too.
Yeah, so there's a process established that priorities are established by the Centers for Education, and those are brought up to the department. I'm really looking forward to the construction of Acadian Wetchport to be completed, most likely later this year, tentatively at this time. I understand that the timeline still for January 2023 opening. If all goes well, there were some delays and hiccups along the way, but that's a significant project for our region, for Wedgeport, for the Acadian Francophone community. And I know there's some discussion on the topic of school builds, of the need for a new elementary school in Pumlico, and there's a group of already established there to focus on that. So that's something that I've lent my assistance to them to support them in that capacity as well.
And what about the Argyle interchange turnoff? That was a hot button topic for a while, and then it kind of died out.
Yeah, that's still top priority for me as major construction in my constituency. That is a dangerous issue, dangerous intersection.
It is.
I guess last year I had the opportunity to provide a first-hand tour to the Deputy Minister and Chief Engineer and other senior staff of the Department of Public Works to reiterate the importance of progressing with this project and list off to them the number of safety concerns. So it is into the design phase with and moving along, and I will continue to advocate and ensure that those within the department at all levels, whether it be a local or regional or provincial level, understand the need of this project, because it is one that is important. I hear from residents, I hear from staff that work at Nikhil Home of too many close calls, and it's been a long time coming, but I'm going to continue my work and my efforts to advocate for that project.
Minister LeBlanc, thanks again for the great chat, and we really appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure anytime. It's I really appreciate the opportunity to join your podcast.
Thank you. I'm Gary Nickerson.
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
And this has been Outside My Window.